Before beginning this tutorial, if you're looking for a less detailed but quicker method, then check out our other audio remixing tutorial. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can take a backing track that you've downloaded to put behind your video edit, but if it doesn't match the kind of flow of your video edit, say you have one section of interview with a voice, and then a second section of action, maybe the music doesn't change to be more upbeat to match the action section, so you want to rearrange those elements of the song, which can be a little bit tricky. I've got an example here which has some footage of a FPV drone, and then we have some action shots. Now this first section here, you'll notice that down here I have some voiceover. I'll color this to be pink. So this is my voiceover section all the way through here. So through this section, I'd like the music to be a little bit more mellow. And then this section up here is my action scene with the drone flying across a field. And I'd like the music to be a little bit more fuller there. So watch as the music, when I play it back, when it passes this line here, you'll notice that the music changes. The best part about FPV quads is you build them yourself. You get the motors, the propellers, you even buy the internal chips and motherboards, which are the brains of the drone. And this camera gives you a view of what the drone sees. It sends a video signal to these goggles through a really small antenna. There's something really thrilling about just turning on the quad and taking off. So you can see that transition is what we're going to be doing today in this tutorial. So I'll delete this backing music that I've done. And I have my full track up here. You see it's nice and mellow at the beginning, and the waveform is really small here, and the waveform gets larger here, and that's when the drums start to kick in. You'll notice in the track how it's smaller waveform, larger, and then smaller from here to here, larger again, and then another piece of small. And so this is where you can visually see, even without listening to the track, where the kind of intensity of the song will lower. So you'll notice a transition here from being bigger down to smaller. So I'd like to grab some of these smaller pieces, put them underneath my interview, and then have one of these larger pieces and put them with my action. So to begin, let's drag audio only down to the audio track. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the M for mute track on my voiceover track, so we're only hearing the music. So a lot of music works on the 4 or 8 beat cycle. And the way to describe this is I've got a little image here, and this shows you beats 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I've lined it up so that this little gray arrow will move around to each section to follow the beat of the song. So watch as this goes when I play the song back. Stop there. So you'll notice that it gets full to 8 and then it resets back to 1. So 1 is going to be the beginning of the beat that I'm going to count out. So I'm going to use this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to help count out pieces of my music so I can chop it up, and then when I rearrange, everything will sound perfect. So let's go back to my music file over here. I'll move this out of the way and we'll come down here. So what I'm going to do is this first piece here, I'm going to look for where the drums start to come in, which is about here. And I'm going to try and find the first beat. Okay, so I think it's about here. And I'm going to try and hit my spacebar to stop it. 1. So about there is where I think. And you'll notice that with most music, the waveform actually has these little cliffs. Usually when you hit your spacebar to stop it, the closest cliff will usually be the beat that you're going to want. So I'm going to cut my audio file here and delete that first part. And so this should be my initial 1 count. So now I'm going to count from 1, following the beat, and I'm going to go up to 8, and then just when I hit 1 again, I'm going to hit spacebar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, stop. So you notice I finish 8 and then hit stop on the next 1. I'll do that one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1. Okay, so let's zoom in. This cliff here looks like it's the closest one, so I'm going to cut there. Okay, so let's move this piece out. I'm going to color this one blue color. Okay, so this is our cut piece here. So now a way to test out if you've done the cutting to match the right timing to be 8 beats, let's just duplicate this and make sure it sits right up against our first piece. And if this isn't working on yours, make sure to hit the S key to turn snap on or off. If you have snap off, it means you can accidentally go over your previous file. So make sure S snap is on. Okay, so I'm going to play from about the halfway mark here. And what we're looking for is this transition from the first piece to the second piece. And let's see if it's seamless. That's actually worked really well. Okay, so I'll delete this second piece. This is our first piece, and I'm going to color this one again. Let's change this one to orange. So orange is perfect. That's a really good cut. 8 beats. So we have our finished kind of chorus piece that has a lot more drums in it. Now we're looking for the quiet section. So if I zoom up here, let me change my audio height here. So my guess is that the mellow part's going to start about here. Ah, it's about here. So I'll play that back and I'm going to count and try and find where I can find the first beat. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1. Okay, let's zoom in. It looks like the closest little peak is here. So I'm going to hit cut. And let's move my piece over here. So I'm going to begin with this and start counting from 1, go up to 8, and then hit stop at the following 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1. Okay, about there. The nearest one is there, so that should be about right. I'll cut again. Let's move this piece out of the way and move the rest of my song out of the way. So this is our mellow part. And now let's double check if we've chosen a good clean cut of the 8 beats. Let's drag this out to duplicate it and make sure it snaps to the back. Okay, we're going to listen to the transition where it changes over. That actually sounds perfect already. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you if you had the beat not be totally right and listen to how it sounds when it's incorrect. See if you can follow along to the beat and notice. There's that extra bit in there. So what we do, if that's not correct, zoom in here. And using your arrow tool, go to the edge of the file and you notice you get this red bracket with an arrow. Let's get rid of a little piece of the audio and then slide this back to fill up that space we've made. Zoom out and let's listen again. Just not quite right. Feels like there's a little bit more in there. So let's zoom in and shorten it back a little bit more. You want to do fine touches with this. You don't want to do too much big removal at the beginning here. That's sounding much closer. Let's go to here. I think we've got it. Okay, so we fixed that up. So if when you're doing your stopping after the 1 to 8 count and then hitting on the 1 and you're using your spacebar and you're finding one of these nearest peaks here, or even if there's no peak and you're having to choose a spot in between, this is the way that you can fine tune. And if it feels like it's too early or too late, then you can adjust it accordingly. So if this was coming in too early, what we would do is slide it out and then drag a little bit more of the music. And that actually adds a little fraction of a second more of the music. So have a listen and see if it sounds like it's coming in too early or too late. Okay, so this piece here is the one that we were really doing all the changes on. We were doing all the sliding and editing at the beginning. We weren't doing that to this first piece. So what I'd like to do is keep this second piece here. I'll give it a different color. Let's go teal. So this green one here, we don't need this anymore because this one still has the extra space at the beginning. So let's move this piece over to here, duplicate it, put it next to itself, and let's have a listen to the transition one more time. That's perfect. Okay, I can delete this second one. So what we have is we have the fuller drum section, mellower section, and these two pieces, I've colored them and kept them to the side because these are pretty much perfect. We've done all our work on these, and these have the clean 8 beats, and they are actually loopable. So if I wanted to, I could have this mellow section, move this drum section, make sure it snaps to line up, then have a copy of the mellow section and a copy of the big section. And as I play it back, you'll notice that it transitions over, and hopefully the timing should be perfect. And this is why if you take care when you're first cutting out one of these pieces, and when you're zooming in and changing the beginning and the end, to get the timing right, once that's done, all your hard work is actually completed, and you can basically move these pieces around and rearrange the song any way you like. So now I have my two pieces here. Let's go back to my video edit and bring them over. Okay, so I wanted to have mellow music for this part underneath my interview here. So my mellow piece is the blue one. Yes. So let's move this fuller piece out to the side here. So I have my mellow piece here. Let's alt drag to make a copy. Make sure we snap it to the previous one. Let's double check. Okay, that's working good. And if I put my voiceover back on, by the internal chips and motherboards, which are the brains of the drone. And this camera. Okay, that's working really good. So now I have my action section over here. But you'll notice that I still have this extra piece from the mellow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you back here at our beat dial, when it goes through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One to 8, you can actually cut it early and just go 1 to 4. And what you're doing is doing 4 beats, which tends to be half of a bar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this mellow piece, let's bring it back out here, and we're going to basically make this half as long. And the way to do that is we're going to take it back to the beginning, and instead of counting 1 all the way up to 8 and then hitting stop at 1, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 and then hit stop at 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. So the reason why I'm not going to 8 is because I only want 4 beats. And I'll do that again and we'll see where it lands. 1, 2, 3, 4, stop. Okay, so it looks like it's on that peak there. And sometimes it won't line up perfectly, so let's go about there. We'll delete the second half. Okay, so just like when we're doing 8 beats, we want to check how this sounds. I've duplicated that over and we're going to listen to the transition. That seems pretty much perfect. So if you didn't get it right, you may need to adjust the front section here. But that sounds perfect to me. So I'll put this back. And now you'll notice that, this actually fits out now. Instead of having 8 beats, we have 4 beats, and this lines up really well with my video edit. So now I'll bring my fuller part of the music in. And I'd like this to continue behind here, so I'll copy and paste that. Okay, so where this actually transitions over, I like my action to start right here. So I'm going to move my clips down, move them to there. And now let's have a listen. I'll start from about here. So I'll unmute my voiceover. And we'll just listen to this last section here and see how it sounds when it changes over from the mellow to the action. There's something really thrilling about just turning on the quad and taking off. Oh, that sounds great. I really enjoy doing this because it's really satisfying getting the precise moment and making it so it's indecipherable. I'll play that one more time. Turning on the quad and taking off. That's great. Okay, so I'll shorten up my audio track here. And we'll add a little fade out to that. So I'm adding just a constant power cross dissolve in my effects tab, so that at the end we fade out. So I have this small piece here of our mellow. We have 8 beats and 4 beats. I'm going to copy this and put this out here, and I'm also going to bring out one of our fuller parts with the drums. Now say I wanted this to be half as long. Instead of 8 beats, I want it to be 4 beats. Instead of having to count along and choose the cut spot myself, I can use this one that we cut down to 4 beats, use this as a cutting guide. I'll bring this up above, make sure it snaps, and then just shorten this down. And then what I've done is I've actually used this as a cutting template for this one. And if I duplicate it and push play, that's pretty much perfect. So I've used this piece here that we cut down to 4, and I've used it as a template to cut this other piece down. So what you can also do is you can use this piece or any of these other ones. Let's say this piece here. If this song had another section that you'd like to trim down to be 8 beats, you can find where the first beat is. 5, 6, 7, 8, stop. And if you found this as your first beat, this spot right here, what you can do is use this 8 count, bring it up to the top, move your playhead, cut this piece, and now you have 8 beats here. So if you take the time to get these first 8 beat cuts right, you can actually use them as a cutting template. One final thing is this transition here from the mellow into the heavier. I'd like to add a transition there just to smooth it out. This song actually works really well. The cut is sudden, just turning on the quad and taking off. It works really well, but say you have some classical and it's very sparse here, and then it's very full here. That transition will be really noticeable to the viewers, and you want to change that. So you want to go over to Effects, and if Effects isn't there, go up to Window and choose Effects. In the search bar, we'll type Cross, and you're looking for the audio transitions, crossfade, constant power. We'll drag this down and place this over where the 2 audio clips transition, and then release. And what this is doing is this part of the transition is playing in a little bit of the faded part of this new piece, and then vice versa. This one is continuing to play here. So it's like a fade in, fade out. And I'll play this now, and taking off. You notice that voice comes in a little bit more now. So what I can do is I can actually lengthen this by clicking and dragging on the sides of it, and this will lengthen the duration of the transition. On the quad and taking off. You can also shorten it or move it left or right. So depending on your backing track, using this method of cutting these pieces and lining them up together, you may need a transition here, an audio transition, constant power, crossfade. So that's a very detailed explanation on how to cut up a backing track into multiple pieces to effectively create your own backing track to suit your video edit.